I mean, thank you, A, so much for breaking that down. But B, I was going to ask you if this left you with more questions than answers, right? Because as you said, a lot of people are named, a lot of allegations thrown out there, a lot of unverified allegations. The FBI says, hey, we can't corroborate this. So I know you've had questions since
Yeah.
2020 of how the sex trafficking enterprise operated and who was involved. So now when we sit here, we're 3 more million documents deep here. How much did all of these documents, did everything we learn move the ball when it comes to this story of how much more do we know about how this sex trafficking ring operated? Or are you saying, it makes it even bigger, but with more questions?
I think it makes it even bigger with more questions. I think the survivors who ultimately are the ones who deserve accountability in this unbelievable case of a predator who just involved the biggest, some of the most powerful men across the world who he dragged in. Uh, they're still scratching their heads in terms of really getting the answers they want. And I feel so bad for the survivors because I don't know if we're ever going to get any real accountability from this. I mean, it maybe in a future administration may release the remaining 2 million documents that are apparently still being held under privilege, according to Todd Blanche, um, the assistant attorney general. And maybe in those 2 million pages of documents are the answers that we have been looking for in terms of really understanding what the FBI did to investigate the men that not only Virginia Giuffre, but that other victims had said they were sex trafficked to in terms of these important, powerful individuals. So, it's extremely frustrating. I mean, the files, I think, further along the understanding of how Jeffrey Epstein operated in terms of the sexual abuse of these victims. It goes into horrific new details, just stomach turning details related to the abuse of these victims, not only sexually, but in some cases psychologically. There was one victim that I read about in the files that Jeffrey Epstein psychologically tortured her about her weight, that she wasn't thin enough, and was always calling her out, calling her names, and some of the stuff that you read, particularly as a father of a daughter, it is excruciating to read these accounts, even more accounts now than we had in the past, of the very specific details of the sexual abuse, the rapes, and just the way he operated. I mean, I had written in my book that he had waved a gun at one of the victims on his island in the Virgin Islands, and the documents show that Jeffrey Epstein, um, at least according to one witness, an employee, had a gun under the mattress while he was raping some of these victims. Now, you have to ask yourself, what was the purpose of the gun? What was he going to use this gun in some way? It's unclear. But this is a man who, when you read through these files that have been released, was just a monster. He was a monster, but at the same time, he was able to compartmentalize the sexual abuse of these girls. And in the next hour, he was on the phone to some of the most important men across the world, politicians, financial leaders of big banks, people in the entertainment community. It's unbelievable. And we even now have learned so many new stories about men who I find most appalling, who curried up to Jeffrey Epstein after the 2007 arrest and Jeffrey Epstein's conviction for prostitution of a minor. In the years after, he associated with so many well-known individuals who wanted to come to his parties. You take Elon Musk, one of the wealthiest men in the world, who emailed Jeffrey Epstein saying, please invite us to your wildest party. Okay. Then, of course, you had Howard Lutnick, who was Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary. This man was a neighbor in New York of Jeffrey Epstein. He lived next door to Jeffrey Epstein on the Upper East Side. He famously said that years ago, Jeffrey Epstein invited him into his home, and he was taken into the massage room. He saw the massage table, and he left the house saying, this guy's strange. I don't want to have anything to do with him. And these new documents point out that in the years after Jeffrey Epstein's arrest, in the years well after he said he didn't want to associate with him, that he was emailing Jeffrey Epstein to ask him if he could bring his wife and family to his island in the Virgin Islands because they were on a holiday. I mean, this man was thinking in some way that this was like going to Disneyland or something. I mean, this is the island where hundreds of girls were sexually abused. So, you know, it's mind-boggling why these men, smart, powerful individuals, would want to associate themselves with Jeffrey Epstein. The same can be said about Richard Branson, the Virgin CEO. There's many, I would say, embarrassing emails between the two. None of the men I've named have been accused of taking part in any sex trafficking, but you have to wonder why so many of these rich and powerful men wanted to associate with him.